Hey folks, welcome back to Nikki T Live. I'm your host, Nick Taylor, and today I am hanging out with Austin Gill, who just got zoomed in really close. Nice to have you here, Austin. I
Hey,
th-
sorry, I'm trying to adjust.
no, it's all good. I'm laughing because I don't know if you've
There
ever
you go.
experienced this, but it's like sometimes like one person will have like a massive, not a massive head, but just based on the camera, and then I remember being on a stream with Gant Laborde, and I looked like this little pinhead, and Gant's head was like massive. But anyways, I digress. Yeah.
Yeah, the funny situations with modern technology these days.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with that, thanks for hanging with me today. I know you're busy like a lot of us, so appreciate you taking the time out of your day. For folks that might not know who you are, mind just giving a quick don't have to go into your full tech origin story if you don't want to, but like just kind of who you are, what you've been up to, and what you're up to these days.
Sure, my name is Austin Gill. I work for a company called Akamai that for over 20 years has been providing content delivery network services for some of the largest companies in the world, which is really cool. And recently has moved into cloud computing, the full spectrum of cloud computing, object storage, managed databases, just
Okay.
plain bare metal VPS. I have been doing web development for like 10 years, but I recently, well, I guess throughout that time, I spent a lot of my time and energy outside of work on developer education.
Okay.
I'm currently in my first role as a developer advocate, and
Okay.
fortunately, I get to focus on coming on things like this and talking to developers and just educating. Not trying to sell any products, just making sure that I don't know, giving back to the community and making sure that people are building websites responsibly and efficiently.
No, that's awesome. I love that. I, I I'm not a developer advocate myself, but everybody that I've talked to that works in the space, they kind of give a similar answer in the respect that like obviously you do want to promote your company or your company's product at some point, but it's not the goal so much. It's really more to help the developer community, and if your particular thing at some point happens to make sense for them, then that's awesome, and like I feel like it's more about like just meeting people in the community, interacting with them, and then I don't know. I don't want to get into metrics or anything, but it's probably a hard thing to quantify. Like you could meet me today, and then nothing happens, and then like a year later, I'm like, oh yeah, Austin, doesn't he work over there? Okay, yeah, I need this now, and assuming I had some good interactions with you or were helpful, I would probably be inclined to go approach you again. So but it's a tough game, I guess, in that respect sometimes in terms of the metrics.
Yeah, the metrics, the workload, because developer advocacy itself is kind of a loaded term. I mean, it can mean anything from writing documentation or triaging issues or uh, building tooling around services that your company provides, writing content, going on live streams, doing presentations, all sort. Like basically, it's a giant umbrella term that covers
Yeah.
more things than any one person can do. So for anyone out there
Yeah.
interested in developer advocacy, yeah, like explore a little bit with all of the different things, but figure out what it is that you enjoy and that you're good at, and just focus on that because there's no way anyone can do all of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that it's fun, it's interesting. Oh, there's people that are more on the salesy side of things, or you kind of talked about the metrics. It is really hard to see the through line sometimes between
Hmm.
some interaction that you had at a conference to ultimately uh, a sale, which is why companies pay for people to have or for developer advocates.
Yeah.
But I'm in a very fortunate position that there's not like a ton of pressure to always be selling, selling, selling. So I think my biggest strength or virtue is just being able to speak authentically and
Hmm.
honestly about uh, well, educating developers. And like you
Yeah.
said, where there is overlap with the product that we offer, I'm also lucky to work at a company that is kind of best in breed in some of the services that we offer. So it's very easy to show up authentically and say, yeah, if you're going to need, a CDN, Akamai is probably the best in the world for it. Now that said, I admit my bias, but my bias is definitely going to lean more towards just being able to see how the sausage is made,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
can speak to the strengths and what's coming down the pike. Whereas other companies, I never like to disparage them. There's always things that are going on behind closed doors that I don't know about, uh, and we're all out here just trying to do the best job we can. you know,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, so I'm just gonna drop some links if folks want to give you a follow on the interwebs.
Oh
Um,
yeah, thank you.
and yeah, so like the title says on the stream here, we're gonna be talking about full spectrum file uploads today. I'm gonna also drop a link to a blog post which kickstarts a series on this that you've written. Is the series finished? I've gone through the first two myself, but
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, so I guess let's start off there. So when you say full spectrum file uploads, I guess do you mean the whole gamut, like front end to back end? That's kind of what we're getting at.
Yeah. So the idea with this series is, I guess this is the second time in my career that I've gone really deep on something that,
Okay,
on the surface seems it's deceptively simple, I guess,
okay,
because you just think, oh, like adding file support to file uploads, you just do this. But depending
yeah,
on
yeah,
where you are in the stack, that could mean a whole bunch of different things. And yeah, you say, there's certain things that you need to do to enable file uploads on the front end, and even on the front end, that can be through HTML or through JavaScript or both.
yeah,
And then there's things you have to do to enable file uploads on the back end and kind of dig deep into understanding what the backend needs to do and how it works, and
hmm,
how those files are being processed. So there's the front end layer, sort of the HTTP or networking layer, the back end layer, and then there is more of like uh, the high level architectural decisions when you're
yeah,
considering file uploads around where you're going to store those files, how that's going to affect pricing and deliverability, how you're going
hmm,
to deliver those files, and how that impacts performance, which ultimately affects, um, well, reliability and user experience. And
yeah,
then it kind of ties off the end of the series with security, because obviously, if you're enabling file uploads publicly, then
yeah,
you have to consider bad actors and uh, yeah, what sort
yeah.
of precautions you need to take.
Yeah, for sure. Never trust user input, even if it's even if it's your grandmother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I think I don't know. I mean, this is going to be totally biased and like tooting my own horn. But one thing that I guess I take pride in my work is really trying to provide all of the information you need, or at least link off to where you need to go deeper, so that it's not
yeah,
just oh, we're going to. It's not just like a blog post that says this is how you enable file uploads on the back end, and then assume the front end is taken care of, or vice versa, or
yeah,
or kind of assume that people have a lot of this requisite knowledge for how to make things work. So I try to take um, a little bit of extra care in explaining the things that I think you need to know,
hmm,
um, and not kind of take for granted that step, and really look at if I'm going to show you how to deploy an application using the next hot framework, I'm not just
yeah,
going to show you how to do the getting started stuff, but actually
yeah,
get it deployed onto a server, because that's where a lot of blog posts kind of don't come through, and then you have
yeah,
people running a whole bunch of really awesome projects on localhost 3000, and it's not actually
yeah, yeah,
publicly
yeah.
available.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I like that you brought up frameworks because I've been doing web dev for quite a while too, and uh, I know because I volunteer at a couple places like the Collab Lab, and a lot of people's introduction to web development that I've seen in the last few years, it's really been React, and that's not to knock React, or like boot camps tend because they're in the mode to like they want you to get a job in React, there's all other kinds of frameworks, obviously, but you know, their goal is to try and get you hired. And so like a lot of people's introduction to web development has been React. And so like that I think isn't terrible. It's just you don't know what the fundamentals are in some cases, and you do pick these up as you go along. But this is one thing that I like about your blog post, because like it goes back to, I don't want to say old school, but like, you know, there's all kinds of stuff that's already available to you in the DOM. Like people always talk about, like, for example, accessing elements in a form. And then there's always been like, I've used, you know, when I was doing React, we've used tools to do it like Formic or other stuff. And you actually don't need any of those things, because like you have access to all this in the DOM. And you know, so I really like that your posts are actually kind of, I don't want to say bare metal, but it's really going back to just core HTML, basic web development principles of how you like do a form submit and so on. And then I think that's really great, because then people can take that and go from there. You know, like they could create, if they're in React land, they could extract what you've done there and put it into a component maybe, you know, and so on. But like I just like that you've kind of went through like everything there, which is great.
You're speaking my love language right now. Is web fundamentals. Hey, give me a second. My dog Nugget just pushed the
Oh,
door
that's all
open.
good.
Wait, hold on.
It's
Yeah. So go on.
no, I was just gonna say, don't worry about the interruptions. When I used to work at Dev 2, I would stream with my coworker Christina Gorton, and she lives in Costa Rica. And so like she either had her kids always trying to break into the room, or we actually stopped the stream once, or I took over while she went to go see sloths outside, you know. So I'm
I
pretty used
mean,
to
if you get the
animal
chance,
interruptions.
yeah. If I get
Yeah.
sloths coming outside my window, the stream is like off for the rest of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah. Sorry, this
calling
is
out of
over.
work. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Spliff?
um, but yeah, the web fundamentals is really fascinating. It's really captured a lot of my attention recently for a lot of the same reasons that you've mentioned. I was on
Yeah.
another podcast recently, and it's kind of hard because it's a very new, not nuanced, nebulous topic that's hard to actually pin down what are fundamentals, because there's a lot
Hmm.
of overlap with, is our fundamentals things that beginners need to learn and then eventually you kind of move on,
Yeah.
or are fundamentals well, hold on. If it's things that beginners need to learn, then it doesn't make sense that we're, someone with 10 years of experience, we're having conversations that you have to constantly be relearning the fundamentals. And so it's not that. And if it's like uh, things that are just primitives to something like the web platform, then you would say, well, is understanding, I don't know, the web animations API or every single method that's available on all DOM nodes, is that fundamentals? I don't think it's that either, because there's a whole lot of things in the DOM that is not necessary to know to build your applications. There's a lot of things that are even deprecated or anti-patterns. So that's not fundamentals. I think fundamentals are ultimately the best description I've come up with is the things required to understand how the next layer down is working. So if we start at a high level, you could say with React has its own fundamentals, how the virtual DOM works, how synthetic events work, how reactivity works, and those are like React fundamentals, right? And then beyond that, React is built on top of JavaScript. So you have to understand, or maybe there's like a meta framework, right? Maybe you have like next fundamentals, then React, then the next layer down would be JavaScript, and the next layer down from JavaScript might be would be the runtime, which in the browser would be the DOM or the JavaScript runtime. And if it's a server-side rendered application, it might be Node or Bun. So
Yeah.
understanding those fundamentals, and then there's just so many layers down, and then also horizontal moves, right? You have the rendering
Yeah.
engine, then you have the HTTP layer, which is how how computers communicate across the network, and getting sort of to the lower levels there. And so it's hard to pin down, but it's very important for the reasons that you're saying. That uh, once you understand the fundamentals, you understand what you need and what you don't
Hmm.
need. So if we're talking about, like Formic or these form libraries, I'm also very big on you don't need form libraries.
Yeah.
When you understand what's available, you understand that you don't need these things, and having fewer things makes it easier to ship less code, which is generally better for performance. It makes it easier to maintain less code, which is better for your personal life of not having to run, npm updates. It's also can be not 100%, but can be better for security because you don't have other people's code that could be injecting things that shouldn't be there, or having to deal with, the npm author didn't set up two-factor authentication, or supply chain attacks, or even just deliberate or accidental security vulnerabilities that enter into these dependencies.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, man, let me put that soapbox off to the
Yeah, no,
side
no, it's all
now.
good. Can you
Um,
hear me again? My browser
yeah, yeah,
crashed.
yeah.
So okay, cool. Just
Yeah,
checking.
no, it was fine. We carried on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I. Thanks for the raid, Dax. Dax works at SST. Yeah, yeah. I think the raid crashed on my
Oh
browser.
yeah,
Who knows?
Dax, what's up?
Yeah, I've never met
Oh
Dax,
man,
but I've heard good things about him, and I love his jokes. So I caught one of his streams yesterday. Yeah,
yeah, we're
yeah, no.
gonna we're gonna turn this into between two nerds here. Are we gonna have to
Yeah,
start
yeah,
roasting each
exactly.
other?
Oh man, those things are. I've only seen. Well, I don't know how many he's made, but I've seen the one with Fred K. Shot and
Mhm.
the one with Rich Harris
Yeah, yeah,
recently. they're
pretty
they're
good
like
stuff.
they're bang on. They're banging. Okay, he's only made two so far. Keep them up, because seriously, man, they're gold. Yeah, Fred's was like top tier. I mean, no
Yeah,
offense to Rich's one, but I don't know if it's kind of like when you have your first, album that goes out, and it ends up being the best one. But anyways, shit was really funny.
I'm
but
looking forward to the one where you get roasted.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah. Getting back to what you're saying, you really weren't on a soapbox. It's just like uh, there's uh, there's several people have several. Obviously, people have opinions. It's the internet, but like, you know, I'm still kind of I'm not sure what my opinion is if people should start with a framework or learn fundamentals, because like I think what I kind of encourage is just build something, and then
Yes, yes,
so like if that happens to be with fundamentals first, great. If it happens to be with a framework like React or Asher or whatever, that's great too. Because what I see happen after that is, it's like you're gonna get stuck on something, and it's probably something JavaScript related, and that's when you dig into things. Like for example, like in React, like when you're iterating through an array of elements to create, I don't know, like list items in an unordered list or something. You're just doing the map of that data, and then you're spitting out components, but then maybe you're unaware of like filtering options or stuff, like like I feel like once you kind of get stuck somewhere, you got to dig a bit, and it's I don't know, I'm more old school in that, like I like basically I was doing uh, YouTube didn't exist when I started doing web development. Basically, I have a bit of a baby face, but I'm a
wait, you
little
built
long in the
YouTube?
tooth. Yeah, yeah, that's it. You heard it here first. Next on Between Two Nerds. What's this YouTube? But yeah, what I was saying is like I did learn the fundamentals, because like that's kind of just how I started, because there wasn't this plethora of like frameworks at the time. jQuery
Yeah,
came about at some point, and then there was stuff like Backbone, and ended up doing some Angular, like, but like I don't think there's a right or wrong answer of like doing fundamentals first, or hey, what's up, CBD? CBID 2. It's always weird when you see people's handles. Some people I know who they are, and some I don't. So I'm always just trying to pronounce the handles. But yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on if you should start with fundamentals or like a framework, because it gets back to my point, whereas I think you should just build something, and then you're gonna learn from that.
yeah,
But
yeah. Build
yeah,
what you want to see in the world. I mean, people like to have like strong opinions and be really inflammatory about what's right and wrong and choose their camps and get people just like having reasons to get angry about
Yeah,
stuff
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
now
exactly.
like honestly framework first then fundamental and then like backfill fundamentals or fundamentals first and then like build up to frameworks it really doesn't matter I think a framework first is going to give you um, more momentum up front, but
Yeah,
then it generally can leave you with a lot of unknown unknowns or pitfalls that you aren't aware of.
yeah,
Um, that you would then that's when you need to backfill with learning fundamentals and understanding things more deeply.
yeah,
Or if
yeah,
you start with fundamentals, it just takes longer to actually build cool stuff because you have a longer ramp up to getting productive. But either
yeah,
way, I think it is a matter of you need to learn both. You need to learn frameworks because I don't think it's feasible to start and stay with just fundamentals and do everything at like the lowest level possible because then you
yeah,
end up just recreating your own React. And if you want to do that, that's fine. It's a
yeah,
great learning experience, but it it's probably not going to be as good as React.
yeah. No, yeah,
uh,
totally, totally.
so and maybe there's people that do build things that in my opinion are better than React and have gone down that path, but there's at some point it's people that know what they're doing and understand the fundamentals of both
Hmm.
the existing framework and the platform to say where the gaps are in capabilities that um, something like React would have, right? What needs to be like?
Yeah,
Why do we need another framework? Not because I want. I mean, it's a great learning
yeah,
experience otherwise, but
yeah. No, for sure. There's a question in the chat. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this. I can maybe chime in too, but somebody's wondering how much coding they should learn if they want to become a technical writer. I know you're not necessarily a technical writer, but I imagine you do some
whoa,
writing as a
shots
dev
fired.
advocate. Yeah.
I'm technically a writer, so
Oh, okay. I
that's got
didn't
to
know
count for
that.
something.
Okay. All right. Cool. Cool. All right.
No, we'll play on words. But I think my like advice to myself would be don't wait until you're an expert to start writing about something. And that's for a number
Hmm.
of reasons. One, because I have never reached a point in my career, or I guess very recently and only for a very small amount of things would I actually feel comfortable calling myself an expert. And the problem is I've got a lot more things to say. And I think I
Yeah.
waited a long time in my career before I started writing and reaping the benefits of writing. Now, uh, I think ultimately, if you want to write about technical stuff, you can start
Yeah.
today. Just start with what you're learning. Today I learned that whatever HTML can have access to the camera without JavaScript or something like that, right? Just
Yeah.
start writing about what you know, and accept the fact that you're going to be wrong. Accept the fact that there's going to be people that are just want to be jerks online.
Yeah.
But ultimately, humans. It's weird because you have to be aware that humans have this, I guess, negativity bias. I forget what it's called, but we weigh negativity way more heavily than we weigh positive things. So for
Yeah.
10 positive things that happen in your day, if one negative thing happens, that's the thing that you stew on. And that applies to feedback you get from technical writing.
Yeah. No,
Learn
for sure.
to get over that, learn to deal with that, learn to find your zen moment and just say, I do this for me. I wrote this because it's something I care about, something I'm interested in, something that I want to be able to reference later on, something
Yeah.
that I want to show off the knowledge that I have. It's a reason why I want to share this to help people in my community. And
Hmm.
writing is a great way to uh, check with yourself or to check yourself on your knowledge because you start
Yeah.
writing and all of a sudden you say, wait, I don't actually know how this part works, so I got to
Hmm.
go back and research that and fill that in. um, and then eventually you put something out, you say something wrong and people correct you, and some people do it as jerks, but a lot of people do it with kind intentions, and
Yeah.
it's a great way to build community.
Yeah. No,
I love it.
it's a
So
great point. I like your point about the people trying to correct things, and I remember speaking with Sean Wang when I was on the Dev 2 stream, and he was saying like when people do say no, that's not right or whatever, he really appreciates that. And then, but he kind of, he also says like, can you cite a reference or something? So I, because I'd like to update my article and stuff. And I think that's,
Yeah.
I think that's great. It's not, it's just, it's a constructive way. I think even if people are trying to be, even if somebody's, kind of being a dick about it, by throwing it back that way, it's kind of, it either
Yeah.
quiets them or it helps out the article. And I totally agree about you talking about doing it for yourself. Like I'm not a technical writer, but I do blog, and I 100% agree. Like I'll write something out, and then as I'm writing it, I'll realize like, oh, I have holes in my knowledge here. Like this, like I'll write it out, and then I'll be like, okay, yeah, no, that makes no sense, or like what's going on here. So definitely helps in that way. And I think it's great to write for yourself, and if it helps others, that's amazing, but I do like that approach of writing for yourself, because it solidifies your knowledge. And then it doesn't happen all the time, but I do like when people ask me about stuff, because I remember Scott Hanselman had, I'm paraphrasing the quote, but he says you
Yes, I
have
was
a
going to quote it. Yes.
okay, you quote it, you
No,
quote
no, no, no,
it.
no. You
Okay,
got
okay,
this. I'm
okay.
typing it. Yes, good. I know where you're going.
Yeah, yeah. So Scott Hanselman is obviously a very busy person, pretty high up at Microsoft these days. Blogs a lot, podcasts, all that, and he loves helping people. But it's not like everybody can slip into his DMs and say, Scott, how does this work in .NET or whatever. So he says he has this blog post, and I'll try and find it. It's called "You Only Have So Many Keystrokes," I believe, and it's the main point of it isn't that he doesn't want to help. It's just he can't scale his help. So blogging has been a great way to do that. And Ken C. Dodds does this too. He didn't say it so much in the same way, but it'll just be like, oh, here's a blog post I wrote about that, and then there you go, and it shares the knowledge. And I think that's a super amazing way to scale. And this doesn't apply to just the developer community. Like it could be at your work as well. Like you have this bit of knowledge and somebody on your team doesn't, writing it out, it just helps everybody. So
Yeah. I actually that same post. There was something else that I took away from Scott's post of you only have so many keystrokes, and that was I think he mentioned something in there about negativity online, and
yeah.
that he's like you know we're all gonna basically the metaphor or the message is like we're all going. You only have so many things you can do in your life. You only have so much time. So you only have so many keystrokes is a metaphor for how
Yeah.
much time and how much energy you have and focus to use in a day in your life, whatever. Um, and spending that time to
Hmm.
be negative to someone else online or responding to negative people or, just putting that energy there, that's a choice that
Yeah.
you make. And
Yeah.
that's where you're investing your time
uh,
and your
oh yeah,
energy and your
totally.
keystrokes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you put it out there because it makes you feel good, like writing content, um, those are keystrokes that are investing in yourself, right? But
Yeah.
if someone's a jerk and then you take the time to like respond in kind, then
Yeah.
what does that actually serve you?
Yeah,
I
totally,
also want to
totally.
take a moment and say that we're spending a lot of time right now talking about uh, technical writing, which is a
Yeah.
type of content creation. I think it's incredibly important to say that blogging is not for everyone. I do it because it's the medium that I enjoy.
Hmm.
But there's also, content creation around creating videos, even different types of videos, doing live streaming, going
Yeah.
to presenting at conferences, both virtual or in person. Those are completely different things. Um, Podcasts, all sorts of different ways that you can create content and exercise that sort of uh, creative outlet.
Yeah.
Um, and I encourage people to try all of them because just because something didn't work or like you couldn't get the
Hmm.
inspiration in one form of medium
Yeah.
doesn't mean that another one won't work, even if they're very closely related.
No, for sure. And I totally feel that. I do enjoy blogging. I'm not a prolific blogger, but I do like when something's in my head that I know I gotta write, I just do it. And that's, I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to blog, but that's how I do it. And then I kind of put it out there, and then I just edit it as it's once it's out there. But but I well, one, I enjoy streaming. I just love meeting people and just talking with the community. Um, I would like to do like actual YouTube videos, but I don't have time at the moment. Like working full
Yeah,
time
it's a
engineering,
lot.
like and like the streaming I do on my lunch hour, which I'm totally cool with. It's just because I enjoy it, but it's like yeah, whatever works for you for sure. And the other thing too is you can always repurpose the content. Like I've taken stuff from streams and created blog posts from it, if you know, if that's your jam. Or sometimes I'll do clips. And you know, there's basically however you get the knowledge out, like you're saying, Austin, is whatever way works best for you. It's still going to be beneficial to yourself and others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
that was a nice intro. Do you want to talk about file uploads?
Yeah, I was about to say we went on a bit of a tangent there, and that's
Yeah.
cool. I always go on tangents, but yeah, I'm gonna drop the
Oh
blog
man,
post
that's I mean
again.
that's the best part about live streams, right? Is the
Oh
unplanned.
yeah, for sure. I dropped the blog post again because it's way up in the chat now. So yeah, so we were talking about file uploads, and like I was saying, I like how you kind of go to the fundamentals of how this all works. So like let's maybe dive into that. I don't know if you want to share your screen now, or if you want to talk a bit about it before we do that, or
Um, yeah, let's kind of talk about it, 'cause I think the screen might be distracting, and also basically, if you have the blog post, you don't really need to listen to me talk. It's probably all in there better anyway.
okay.
But when we're talking about file uploads, you kind of need to understand at a lower level or the fundamental level how I guess I guess I would even start with the HTTP layer, right? Like start
Mm-hmm.
at how do computers communicate? Because at one point, at some point at the end of the day, we have a file that exists on my computer that, let's say I want to send it to your computer, which happens to be a server in the cloud somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So to do that, uh, we use on the internet through browsers. We use HTTP as the protocols, as the language that computers use to talk to each other. And
Mm-hmm.
HTTP is just a protocol. When you make an HTTP request in the browser, or you submit a form, or you click a link, or you do something, under the hood, the browser is communicating, or is translating that action into this protocol language, right? So
Yeah.
it sends a request using, it's basically like text that the browser sends uh,
Yeah.
over the network, my browser to your server, right? So the way that browsers, or the way that these computers communicate what the contents of that message contains, is a little bit different when you're talking about files.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about building an interface that users are going to upload files from, it gets even more difficult, because you have to understand that browsers don't inherently have access, or like what is it, unfettered access to
Mm-hmm.
the operating system. The
Yeah.
browser is the interface through which users can essentially communicate to other computers via HTTP. But the browser isn't going to have like access. Well, sorry, browser has access to files, but websites do not. There's basically, when the browser loads a
Yeah.
website, that website is going to be in a sort of sandbox environment and not have privileged access to any file on a computer, because obviously that would be a major security flaw. Now,
Yeah.
there's a little caveat there. There's a little caveat because there are like some experimental features that I think Chrome supports now,
Okay.
where browse or browsers provide access to websites to the operating system, but
Mm-hmm.
it's an isolated folder if web developers want to like add files somewhere that they can then access later on. Those are
Yeah.
different kinds of files. We're not really concerned with that today.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
pretty cool so far. I think that
Yeah.
was coherent enough to come up with on the spot. Okay, so right, to do this sort of communication thing in the browser, in a website, what's actually, yeah, the low level fundamentals, HTTP is all fascinating and all, but we want to actually do get some practical knowledge away from this.
Yeah.
So you essentially, to upload a file from the browser side, you need to do some things.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make the HTTP request that's actually going to send the file. you need access to the file contents, and you need to configure the HTTP request uh, in such a way that it communicates that it's a file and not just a standard request.
Yeah.
So the way we can do that is basically in the browser with just HTML. We have two ways of making HTTP requests. One is the anchor link. One is the form tag. Right.
Yeah.
So because we're going to be sending a file, anytime we're sending a file, the right HTTP language that we need is to send a post request or use the method of post. So you can build a form and set the method to post. That's going to
Hmm.
change the HTTP headers. And then you also need access to the files. It might be simpler if I actually just like share my screen. I feel like
Yeah, sure.
this is getting, yeah. Let me make
Just
sure I'm in the
once
right
you open
place.
the file, just maybe zoom it in like once or twice. Just
Yeah, sure. Where is where is my stuff? All right. Well, I'll get this going. So I am going to be doing this in a Nuxt.js environment, but
okay.
it's not
Cool.
really super relevant. I use Nuxt for convenience of having access to both server and
Yeah.
client side and hot module reloading and all this stuff. But essentially, yeah, so we have this form here, right? And the language that you need or the way that you sort of enable file uploads with HTML, it's not quite as simple as you would think. We do have this input tag that has input of type of file here.
Hmm.
And let's see. There we go. Get that down. Where is it? There it is, right? Input type of file. That's basically what you need. This is one of the things, this is one of the requirements is you need access to the file system. We said that the
Yeah.
browser does not have inherent access to the file system. And so in order to access a file, you basically need an input that requires user interaction. So here I click it and then hopefully, yeah, cool, nothing bad.
Yeah.
And then I can select as a user, this UI is part of the operating system, right? So the
Yeah.
browser, the web application doesn't have access to configure. I think you can maybe configure which folder it starts to open in, but you can't tell me um, which
Yeah.
files to choose, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then so the web application puts an input. The input talks to the browser, and then the browser talks to the operating system to then open up the file selection UI.
Yeah.
Cool. Now I'm able to pick a picture of Nugget, and now the browser, the web app has access to that. It's in the system, and then you submit the form, and that's sort of it, but not really, because
Hmm.
we have the form now to make the HTTP request. We've set the method to post, which is one of the two options we have in HTML, get or post.
Yeah.
And to send data, you use post. To receive data, you use get, more or less. And then the
Yeah.
one missing piece is the content type headers. So if I go to the network and I submit this, I'm going to get a 500 for some reason. That's fine. Okay. Let's figure that out later. That's not important. The important thing is the request needs
Yeah.
to send a content type header that's set to multi-part form data. Now this actually is probably I don't know how much deeper I can explain of what multi-part form data is, but as part of the request, one of the important things to understand is when you're sending a file, you are
Hmm.
sending or you're basically opening up the HTTP request to a lot of data, right? Like
Yeah.
if you just submit a form with your name and email, that's not a whole lot of data that's going over the wire. But when you are allowing for file uploads, you could be dealing with files that are like multiple gigabytes, right? Like a video file
Yeah.
or something. So the browser actually doesn't have a way to send all of that data in just one giant payload.
Hmm.
So what it does is it's actually going to stream and take that data, those files, and even all of the form data, including
Hmm.
text fields or color pickers or whatever, and it's going
Yeah.
to chunk those into smaller bits of manageable little packets of data and send those to the server,
Hmm.
which in this case, I guess you can decide. You can tell the form where to send them based on the action. So I'm sending it here
Yeah.
to slash API. So I'm sending that when the request submits, it's going to send the data in little chunks, which make up something called a stream. So it's going to stream these chunks of binary data uh,
Hmm.
to the backend, and that's sort of like the three things you need to enable file uploads on the HTML side of things. You need to
Yeah.
set the proper HTTP type, so post type, or you need to have access to an HTTP method. You need to set the proper headers, so the method has to be post. The content type has to be multi-part form data, and you need
Yeah.
access to the actual file, which requires a file input.
Yeah. No, no, cool, cool. Yeah,
Cool.
no. Yeah.
Okay.
No, and I like how you explain that it doesn't have access to the operating system. Like the window opens to obviously get the file contents once it goes to upload it, but it doesn't have access to your like your C drive or your slash users, whatever your username. It's because it kind of the fact that it selects the like it doesn't show I guess one thing that's telling is it doesn't show the full file path. It just shows like the file it found. I don't know, in
Yeah.
the
So you're
file
saying
name.
about like the body of the request, um,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
when
because
you
like
examine. Well,
yeah, because
yeah. Here
like
you just see body here.
the file name doesn't really matter so much at that point. It's really the binary data, like you're saying. And if folks haven't read the post yet, like you were saying in Firefox, you'll see this, but not in Chromium-based browsers. Um, but yeah, no, this is super cool. I like just going through the flow here, and especially talking about the lower level because people don't talk about like HTTP that often, to be honest. Like when they're building stuff, I mean, at least most people are just like building
You
and
take
just
a lot for
shipping stuff.
granted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
And
still pretty
again, I
amazing.
mean, yeah, you don't need to understand most of that stuff. You don't even need to understand how
Yeah.
HTML works if you're building React stuff, right? You can still
Hmm.
accomplish it. But it's one
Exactly.
of those things that at the point where you need to start debugging and you don't understand how things work at a lower level,
Yeah.
it makes it more difficult. So, um, getting in and understanding a little bit more about this, uh, I don't want to say it's a requirement, but it's going to help. It's going to help you for sure.
Oh yeah.
It's helped me without a doubt. So,
Oh no, big time. Yeah.
uh, okay, so this is working. It's great. The only problem here is that uh, as much as I love fundamentals and these primitives, and like you say, kind of going back in time and talking about um, the ways things used to be built with these things, that's all
Yeah.
great, except the fact that it's sort of a Pandora's box situation where now that we've seen how web applications can work with like modern tooling, we don't want to
Yeah.
go back to tools like this because oh, I should probably give me one second.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot to turn off my uh, messaging. There we go.
Okay. Cool.
So we don't want to go back to tools like this because one of the problems with just using HTML, which is totally valid and doable and has worked for decades and will continue to work for decades, but the
Yeah.
problem is you miss out on some of the nice features that modern applications have that we've grown to expect. So the big elephant in the room here is when you submit a file or when you submit a form with HTML, the browser is going to refresh. I think if oh no, because I have JavaScript running. So the browser naturally is going to do this like refresh of the page and then submit the
Yeah.
form and then sort of like restart, right? And that works okay, but that's a little bit slower. It may cause the user to download more data because now they have to rebuild the entire web page and like re-download all that.
Yeah.
And it's slower, it feels slower, and the sort of nice modern experience is you use JavaScript to intercept that request and actually submit the form instead, or send the file instead, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to walk through how we can do that. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here. So there's a number of steps that we need to do. It's very similar to HTML. We basically, if we go back and look at the screen, same thing. We still need access to the file. We still need to make an HTTP request, and we still need to
Yeah.
make sure that we're sending the right uh, headers, or yeah, content type and stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a file here that does a whole lot of different enhancements. It's kind of does more than just what we're going to focus on today. But I want to
Yeah.
show the way that I like to enhance a form. And that is, let's see, enhance form. Okay. So what we might do is take the form. We have access to it, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is it? Where am I doing this?
Are you getting the
I guess I'm
form
going to
off
even,
the form submit off the event, or is that how it does it
yeah,
in Next?
here we go. That's the file I was looking for.
Okay.
I don't. I have my. I uninstalled the.
Oh, the extension. Yeah, yeah. What is it?
Yeah, that's all right.
Is it Viter, I think?
I think it's Volar right now. I mean, I can.
Okay.
Sure, why not? Volar. I should do. Cool. Still not working. Great.
It might ask you to
Mm,
restart, I think.
yeah, let's try that really quick.
Yeah. Yeah, so a few people just joined in. So yeah, just to quickly recap. So us, we've been talking about we were talking about technical writing before, but like the focus today is we're talking about file uploads, and Austin's just kind of gone through the basic stuff you need for from the HTML side of things. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not picking it up. That's weird.
Yeah.
Huh.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, and I'll just recap what we were talking about. Yeah, so we're just going through the basics of file upload, starting off from like without a framework. You know what you need in HTML land. So you need a form, you need a input of type file, and then you need to have a method of type post on the form, and then you need an action to submit it to, and you also need to set. There's a attribute on the form called enc type, set HTML attribute on a form, and you have to set that to. I always forget what it's called. It's like www form URL encoded data. I forget what it is.
It's
It's
multi-part form data.
thank
Multi-part
you, thank you.
slash form dash data. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah. So I'm not
us.
going to get the syntax highlighting, and that's fine because we can just
Yeah, it's
walk
all
through it
good.
quickly.
Yeah,
But the key thing here is when you decide that you want to make the switch from HTML to JavaScript. That's kind of there are some key considerations there. In that with HTML you have to use a form because that's the only way to have access to send a post request. With
yeah.
JavaScript, you can use something like fetch. So you technically don't need to use a form.
Mm-hmm.
You do still need access to the actual file system, which can
Yeah,
only happen currently through a file input and user interaction. So you could omit the form from the page, put a file input in there, wait for the user to select the thing, have an on change event handler or something, and then construct a fetch request.
yeah,
That's fine. I personally prefer using a form for a number of reasons,
yeah,
particularly progressive enhancement, where for the millions of reasons JavaScript may fail, using
yeah,
a form ensures that at least if JavaScript fails, you can still fall back to a working version of sending that file.
yeah.
Uh,
No, that's great.
I'll share with you if you want. I have a whole other post on progressive enhancement,
Yeah,
but what I'm going to show here is again, this is working in Nuxt, but I do want to show. It really kills me that this syntax highlighting is not working. Let me
yeah.
try
No, I
one
know
more
what you mean.
time.
It's the kind of thing that would be bugging the hell out of me too. I'd be
Sure,
like,
why not you? We'll just
I
install
should,
all the things.
yeah, install the Vue extensions. Yeah. what's those little signs, the warning signs? Does that just mean it's experimental, or is that something else it's complaining
I'm
about?
not sure, but at least for today, we've got it
We got it. Cool,
set
cool.
up. Okay, so again, I'm working in Vue, I'm working in Next, but that is not super relevant. I did write all of this article using this application, but in a way that really sort of separates the Nux things from the platform things. And once
Yeah,
again, that harkens back to our conversation around fundamentals. That when you know fundamentals, you know
yeah,
where to create the barriers between things. Makes it a lot easier to transfer, copy and paste code, and move it around, and makes the knowledge transfer a lot easier too.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so the way that this is going to work, if you're not familiar with Nux or uh, component based applications, this is what's going to land on the page. We're going to have a form. It's going to have the input. It's going to have the button. It's going to have all the stuff that we saw in the HTML. You don't have to worry about
Hmm.
this funny syntax. It's just some fancy stuff. And then at some point, the page is going to mount. Now we have this function that lets us tap into or run code when the page has loaded, essentially.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. There is a more modern way with Vue to do event handlers, but I want to show the actual platform way. So we're going to use document to grab the form using query selector.
Okay. Yeah.
Once we have access to the form, then we can add an event listener to the submit event. And then you can ignore that, you can ignore that. And then I'm waiting on this function called handle submit. And this handle
Okay.
submit function, I like to do this way because it sort of abstracts all of the logic around submitting this form
Hmm.
into one reusable thing. So in this
Yeah.
way, we don't have to worry about having specific unique event handlers for every single different form. We can write one JavaScript based form submitter and then allow HTML to declare how it's going to function. So we
Yeah.
step into that by accessing the form, grabbing the URL we're going to submit the form to, grabbing the data off of the form using form data. We
Hmm.
also sort of reconstruct the same data, but as a URL search parameters, which will make sense in a moment.
Yeah.
And then when we create our fetch request, we have to pass it another object, an options object. And because we need to know whether it's going to be a get or post request, we can actually grab that information once again off of the form's sort of HTML, right? So any
Yeah.
form that's going to be set, it's either going to have a get or a post method, and we can grab that. Um, it defaults to get.
Okay.
So then here's where sort of the magic kind of happens here is we can basically check whether the form is trying to submit a post request. And only in the event of submitting a post request do we actually want to append a body to the request because a get request
Hmm.
cannot have a body and forms can only submit get or post requests.
Yeah.
And then we have to do another little inline sort of ternary check to say, okay, is this supposed to be a multi-part form data request? If so, go ahead and append the form data object to the body of the request and use that. And if not, go ahead and append the search parameters object that we set up and use that as the body. Now, this is
Okay.
one of those
Gotcha.
things where it's really useful to know how the browser works at a fundamental level because
Hmm.
uh, you might say, hey, if these are both kind of sending the same data, why does it matter whether we send form data or search params? Well, if you remember, multi-part form data is what we need to do if we're going to send a file. So the form has to have that set
Yeah.
if it's going to be a file upload. And when you construct a fetch request and you use a form data object in the body of the request, the browser will automatically set the content type header to multi-part form data. So notice here that nowhere in this code do we set the headers object and then to an object where we do content type of
Yeah.
whatever multi-part form data or text or what are the other ones, URL search params, right?
Yeah.
So just by understanding that the browser will do that, set that for us by using either form data or URL search parameters, we can get kind of smart with it and do a little bit less work while at the same time, you kind of have to understand how it works. And
Yeah.
that understanding really comes a lot from getting into your browser dev tools and inspecting these headers and these requests and knowing what you need, right? That's kind of the
Yeah.
problem with uh, it's not a problem with junior developers, but that's one of the challenges with junior developers is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So
No, for sure.
yeah. So anyway, we do that. We set the body. We get so just in this code, we've configured everything so the fetch request will match parity with how the browser works,
Hmm.
but we're going to do it in a way that um, uses JavaScript. Then we send the
Yeah.
fetch request, whatever. We prevent default behavior at the end of all of this because if we put this at the top of the script and something goes wrong anywhere in between here before we get to the fetch request, that
Yeah.
HTTP request is never sent. And that's a
Okay.
problem.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's sort of it
Yeah. Yeah.
for sending through. Yeah,
I was gonna say I like that you put the prevent default at the end there because I traditionally put it at the beginning, but it
yeah.
makes complete sense what you're saying because like if the promise doesn't resolve or it errors out or whatever, so anyways I just like that, and I just want to reiterate what you're talking about progressive enhancement in case it's not super obvious yet. Like you're leveraging all the information in the form already instead of recreating it in JavaScript. Like you're accessing stuff off the form element itself, like the action and so on. And it's just a really great story in terms of providing as a potentially superior, not superior, but another great way of doing things without having to do the full post back like a traditional web page. But it's there in case things don't fail, and like it's just really nice seeing that. And I know a lot of frameworks are leaning more into progressive enhancement now. Not all of them necessarily, but I know like Remix does this. I believe I don't
Svelte,
know if Nux. Yes, Felt. I don't know about Nux because I
solid
haven't really worked
start.
with
Yeah,
Nux. Yeah, solid. Yeah, and it makes complete sense. Like provide like a cool experience if you have that available to you, and if not, you can still it'll still work because like the the progressive enhancement story, it's like think of like if you were using your bank site and it only worked in JavaScript, and if somebody needed to access it and based on like assistive technologies they don't have JavaScript running or something, they're literally not going to be able to bank. So I think I just like it that you're calling this out explicitly because I think when people start building stuff when they're fresh potentially they're not completely aware of this, so it's just I like that you're bringing it to light.
yeah, yeah. I mean, once again, you don't know what you don't know, and I think that there is some pushback. There's some tension in between like the progressive enhancement or yeah, the people that are pro progressive enhancement and the people that are pro JavaScript, which is not
Yeah.
they're not binary. It's not one or the other. You can have both. I
Yeah.
think it's just it's good to think about it and just I guess speaking from my experience, uh,
Yeah.
I in the same way that I feel better working on an application that is
Mm-hmm.
well tested or has a lot of unit tests. I feel confident. I feel more confident that my code isn't going to break something when
Yeah.
I understand how the browser works and try to enhance things in a way that can still fall back to how the browser works. That makes me feel more confident that even if things do break, it doesn't make me
Yeah.
confident that things are not going to break. Things are always going to break, you know. But
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
make me more confident that they're not going to break. But it makes me more confident that even in the case that they do break, it will still work. And if that's something like a payment form, a sign up form, the main call to action on your application,
Yeah.
uh, great. The person's experience might be a little bit degraded, but at least it still works. And then we
Yeah.
can sort of, you know, it's not five alarm bells going off when
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
find out that whatever. Um,
Yeah. Totally.
but yeah, and I want to reiterate here that I don't know. I think I have a different version of this function that maybe does a little bit more. But to me, there's so much value in having this one function that can be used on any form to
Mm-hmm.
enhance it with JavaScript. And the fact that if I want to create a new form that submits to a different API route, it's really
Yeah.
just a matter of saying this is API, do thing or whatever, right? And this one actually
Yeah.
is not any type multi-part form data. This might actually be a GET request, right? And
Yeah, totally.
whatever, uh, it's going to be slightly different. But all I have to do is write the HTML and
Hmm.
then hook up the a simple submit event handler. I mean, technically, you could even do this for every single submit. You could do this at the window level and say window add event listener
Yeah.
to listen to every single submit event across your entire application and say and propagate that event handler down, right? And it would
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So I think that's super cool. Right now, that idea is just like conceptual, but I would really
Yeah.
like to play with the idea where I have one JavaScript function that handles every single, like it enhances every single form submission.
Yeah.
Um, there's some problems with it because you need to do some unique action to some forms, like
Yeah.
once this form is submitted, also do this thing next. But cross that bridge when we get to it, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
you
that's
could
kind of
give,
yeah.
yeah, well, you could give like, because forms can take a name attribute as well. So you could like, as the submit comes in, you could check what the event current target is, or event.target, and you could check its name, and then you could kind of have like a switch case to say, do the regular stuff for everything first, but then like based on the name, or some unique identifier of
Yeah,
the element. But and the thing about that too is, uh, it's the event delegation is great, especially like mobile devices are faster these days. But like, imagine, this is a silly example, but it's like, say you had 100 buttons on the page and you added 100 event listeners.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's not really a good idea. Like, you want the parent element to delegate and just handle the on click and so on. So it's definitely, I think it's definitely a potentially great idea. And that's uh, you know um, the other thing I was going to say is, you're just getting a nice shout out in the chat from Josh Goldberg. If you don't know Josh,
Oh yeah,
uh,
Josh is awesome.
yeah, okay. Yeah, he's saying, love this advice. In general, knowing the platform you're working on is key for doing things well, and progressive enhancement is a general good thing for browser apps. Two pieces of advice coming together. So lots of love in the
Thanks,
chat.
Josh. That's
Yeah.
just one of the many pieces of wisdom that Josh has. So if you don't know Josh, I would highly recommend you connect because also one of the nicest guys that I've met in person at a conference is great.
Oh yeah, cosign. I haven't met
Um,
him in person yet, but can cosign on being awesome. And
yeah,
he's on Twitch as well.
yeah, he's
And
even awesome outside of conferences.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And just a quick reminder for folks, Austin mentioned he streams on Twitch too, so like, give him a follow right now if you want. And Josh streams as well, so feel free to give them both a follow. And thank you, first time chatter, Jazzy Pants 1989. I don't know if that's a reference to Taylor Swift, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for joining the chat. Anyways, sorry, I digress.
No, that's all right. Okay, so those two elements. Unless you have another question, we can move on to sort of the next
Yeah, yeah. Let's move
phase.
on. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so those two elements are great. That pretty much covers HTTP or sending files from the client side.
Hmm.
And if you're just a front end developer, not just if you are a front end developer, and you only have to concern yourself with that part of the equation, just sending the files, that's pretty much it. You can apply that same logic to any framework you want, and hopefully that's enough. If
Yeah.
you are working on the back end, though, there's still work to do
Hmm.
because most frameworks do not necessarily handle multi-part form data by default. And that again,
Yeah.
that's the requirement to send a file. So most frameworks don't know what to do with files, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, it is, because it's kind
Um,
of like a pretty fundamental thing that people do in web apps frequently. So
yeah, so I'm gonna keep on the screen. I'm gonna go to this series because I don't have this part written in my code at this point. But
yeah,
there's this whole series has like a bunch of different things, and I want to show like a little bit more on the low level how Nuxt no not Nuxt how Node actually
Yeah.
receives these files. Because you remember I
Okay.
said that the browser is going to be sending those as little chunks of data as part of a stream, right?
Yeah.
So this is where we get into a lot more, I'm going to call unnecessary and esoteric knowledge, but it's
Yeah.
fascinating to learn. It's fascinating to learn, but you don't need to build things this way. We'll come back to like libraries at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're working in Nux. Nux has like a little bit of this special way of defining event handlers, which is basically the API, the function that's going to receive the API request. Um,
Okay.
I do a little bit of check. I get the headers. This is also a Nux thing. We have access to the headers. We basically want to do a check and say, hey, if the request that's coming in is a multi-part form data request, because
Yeah.
Nuxt doesn't handle that by default, we need to handle that ourselves in like a custom way. And
Okay.
fortunately, Nuxt.js does give us access to the underlying Node.js runtime. So remember that at the end
Oh,
of the
okay.
day, I have this running in Node, and if I want to do things at sort of the platform level, once again, understanding the fundamentals, being able to access the underlying runtime and the incoming message or the request object that Node is working with, that allows
Hmm.
me to write code in such a way that this is going to work across any Node environment. So I can copy and paste this code into Next or Express or Fastify or whatever. And
Hmm.
as long as I pass the same incoming message to my function, it'll work the same, right? And we'll get into the actual function in a moment.
Yeah.
Uh, but so, a couple things, a couple little prerequisites there. But then we have to deal with multi-part form data in Node. And to understand how that works, on the incoming message, at the low level, like Node.js, you're dealing with just bare runtime Node.
Yeah.
You have access, like not even Express, right? Most people
Yeah.
don't do this because you don't need to recreate a framework. But understanding how it works is good. Um, Again, Node on the request object, you have access to like this event sort of handling system with the on method, and you can listen to
Hmm.
data as it's coming in. So it gives you a way to write a uh, an event handler for that data. So what happens is as the browser is streaming up those chunks of data, Node is listening on the other end. And with multi-part form data, uh, well, actually, that's just for any request object. As
Yeah.
the request comes in, the browser is sending up little chunks of data. Node is receiving those little chunks of data, and no, JavaScript doesn't really have a way to deal with binary data directly. So what
Yeah.
it does is it provides us with what are called buffers. Buffers are essentially a space in memory that's allocated for holding that binary data. Again, kind of esoteric knowledge. Uh, it took me a long time to sort of wrap my head around buffers and streams and chunks. So if it's kind of like up here, don't worry about it. Read the article, and like
Hmm.
even if it you have to be exposed to it like 10 times. In my experience, that's totally normal. Um, but they're kind of weird. They're just like what is the hell is it? This is what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
This is a buffer. Like what is that? I don't even know what to do with that. That's okay. I don't think you really need to understand exactly what a buffer is, except that it's just like a thing. It's
Hmm.
binary data that you have access to in JavaScript, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
But no.
I'll just say one thing there. Just from when we were talking about this initially, like you were talking about, obviously we can upload large files, and this is where that buffering comes in. Like it's not like
Yes,
your web server can take 3 GB in one shot, so it needs the pieces, which is where this ties in. So I just wanted to mention that.
yes. Well, we'll get there
Okay.
because right now we're just logging the data, right? We have in this image we have two buffers that are coming in, and
Hmm.
all JavaScript is doing is receiving it, logging it, and then releasing it, like not doing anything with it, right? So
Yeah.
we logged the first one, we logged the second one, and that's as far as its whole lifespan is just being logged and then released.
Yeah.
So we actually, if we actually want to grab the entire file, we need to do something with more than just log it, right? We need to do something with
Hmm.
that data as it's coming in. So
Yeah.
that's where we could do something like build an event handler. Maybe it returns a promise just because they're more convenient to deal with. But ultimately, what we need is some way to handle the chunks of data as they come in. So maybe we create
Yeah.
an array in memory on the data that we're on each data request as it comes in. We just push that buffer into that
Hmm.
array, and then when we receive the end of the stream or the end of the request, we can say,
Yeah.
okay, cool. We can take that entire payload of array of buffered data, and we can actually squish it together into something and stringify it. And when we do that, with a normal request, we may see the actual request body. So if it's like a JSON body, we would see a string of JSON, right?
Hmm.
When we do that with a file, it gets a little bit weird because you see, um, let me, here's this open. You see the
Yeah.
contents of that file that looks sort of like an alien is like communicating with you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's we're in the Matrix now.
Yeah, and that's because this is what the contents of the file look like, and if it's a PDF system would be able to like interpret this as and display it as a PDF, right?
Hmm.
But to us, it's not super useful. And to your point, let's say if it's a text file, that string of content might look something like this, right? So just plain text.
Yeah.
I had a form with a file input, a file name of Dear Nugget, and I guess it's just a text input that just the text file contained I love you, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. Um, so to your point that you made a moment ago, is when we're sending large files. If I have a server that has 2 gigabytes of memory, um, and I am handling those file uploads like this, and
Hmm.
basically pushing all of the data from that file into something in memory. Maybe you can anticipate where this is going. If I send a
Yeah.
file that's five
Yeah.
gigabytes of data, and I have
Yeah.
2 gigabytes of memory on the server, and I'm trying to store a 5 gigabyte file in 2 gigabytes of memory, server's going to crash, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to work. So that's where what is it? Yeah, that's where we kind of get into streams. So now, yeah, we can move on to sort of. Well, I'll talk about it really briefly,
Okay.
and then we can look at the solution here.
Yeah.
Uh, in There's this other concept in JavaScript called, well, not in programming, called streams. And that's
Hmm.
essentially that same idea where you're receiving a chunk of data at a time and sort of processing it. But rather than taking it and adding it to an array in memory or storing all of that information in memory, you can actually process it and then release it from memory. So
Yeah.
what does process it mean? Well, you can take that stream of data as it's coming in and pass it on to another stream of a processor. So in our case, or in Node.js land, that stream sort of processor could be uh, a file write stream. It's part of the file
Yeah.
system module in Node. And so what a file write stream will do is it will listen to incoming data, and as it receives that data, it can write that data to a specific file that you have configured on disk. So every time that it receives data, it writes that data to the file, and it can receives another piece, and it basically appends it to that file. And then at some point the stream ends, and the file write stream says, "Cool, well all the data is in your file."
Yeah.
But by doing it this way, you've essentially allowed incoming data to be stored momentarily in memory until it's been written to that disk. And once it's written to
Hmm.
the disk, it can be released from memory. So now my 2 gigabyte, uh, of memory server can handle a much larger file. To Can receive a much larger file because only at any given time is it handling a small chunk of data in memory and then writing it to disk and then releasing it from memory. So the memory allocation is never exceeded, assuming there isn't something else going on the server.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, yeah. No, I jumped the gun there. I was referring to streams, but yeah, exactly. Because
Yeah.
it's like you're putting the piece. It's kind of like teleport. I don't know. Not that teleporting is really a thing yet, but like you're sending pieces over and then it's reconstructing it. Whereas with the buffers, it's literally getting all the pieces together first in another pile somewhere else and then giving you the file, I guess. Like I'm trying to see if the best way to explain the stream versus the buffer, but
Yeah,
uh,
so the buffer system is like you're basically adding all like as the request is coming in. Let's say there's 10 chunks of data, you're basically creating a pile of 10 chunks of data in memory. And if those chunks of data exceed the size of if the size of that pile exceeds the memory in the server, it's not going to work. But a stream well, a file write stream, I guess in this case, would allow you
yeah,
to take each chunk of that data and then, just like put it in a box or something. And so you
yeah,
don't have to keep it in a pile. It's a bad
yeah,
bad analogy because eventually like in the box is the same thing, but it's like
yeah,
if you had to like memorize uh 10 names. This is what it is.
yeah,
If I meet 10 people and if I go to a group and there's 10 people in a row, right? And you do your introduction, you're like, "Hi, my name's Austin. What's your name?" Right?
yeah,
And I have to talk to each of those 10 people one at a time. If I have to do it in memory, I have to remember everyone's name.
hmm
And I don't know about you, 10 people first time meeting, it might be hard for me to do it, right?
yeah,
Whereas using streams that can release the memory would be like if I go and talk to each person and I have a little notepad and I can write down their name as I go.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I say hello, we shake hands, they tell me their name. For a moment there, I have to keep it in memory until I'm done writing it on the notepad. And once I'm
yeah,
done writing it on notepad, I can forget this person's name because I've got it right there to reference later on. And then move
yeah,
on to the next person, right?
yeah.
Damn, that was a good analogy.
It
Mm.
was. That it would make a great blog post. It would make a great blog post. Just throw that out
Well, yeah. Actually, yeah,
there.
it would. It would. Someone else, the technical writer question.
Yeah,
I think he was
exactly.
saying, yeah, I think he was saying we missed the part that he was saying, or they were saying, they were talking about documentation writing. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I want to circle back. I don't hit me on Twitter. Let's have the conversation uh,
yeah.
after the stream.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool. So now we're being responsible on the front end with progressive enhancement. We're being responsible with the server with memory allocation and usage. Our server's not going to fall over because we're handling files.
Yeah.
But now we need to move on. Or sorry, no, let's make this a little bit easier. I'm just going to walk through this blog post really quick, just
Okay.
because again the state of my application is further along than where we are in the blog post.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
if you want to do that and you want to do that and you want to simplify that, instead of doing the whole like low level creating the file stream and listening to the on request and all this, just use a library because there are very tried and tested libraries available.
hmm
Formidable is my favorite. It was written a long time ago in Node before Node supported um, like promises. So
Okay.
it uses a callback uh, system or a callback based system. So I just have you can write it in a way that like under the hood uses promises.
Okay.
But essentially, what you would do is take the incoming node request object and pass it to this library called Formidable after you've instantiated with some configuration settings, and it will
Yeah.
go ahead and parse the incoming request and then just tell you which form fields came in as part of the request and which files are available as part of the request. And you can do what you want
Okay.
with it. Again, I'm not going to go too far into this, but it's an excellent library that allows you to do things like uh, file upload size limits. You can do filters based on only allowing certain types of files or
Okay.
what the files look like. And it's really nice because at the end of the day, it gives you something that looks kind of like this. So if I wanted to log the body of a request after using Formidable, instead of having a string of text that looks like this,
Yeah.
Formidable is Formidable. Wait, is this also this is just a live stream, right? We're not podcasting.
No, 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 no,
We're
no podcasting.
okay, good. So
We,
there is a
we, we can
visual.
if you want
Right.
to. I can do that after if you want.
Well, I just want to say, like, if someone's listening and not actually watching this, if instead of logging the contents of the request that looks like a bunch of garbled gibberish as a string, using formidable gives you access to uh, an object representation of that file. So it will tell
Okay.
you things like what the file name is, what size it is, where it exists on disk, which is important if you need to reference it later. It also does some
Okay.
nice things around security and
Okay.
protecting your storage space.
Okay. Just a comment from the chat. Do you mind zooming in? I know it's your people will read the blog post after, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, perfect. Thanks.
yeah. That was good, good advice. But yeah, I mean, basically, instead of dealing with the file contents, which to be honest, you're probably, if you're receiving a file upload, you're probably not at this point interested in the contents of the file as much as
Hmm.
you are just writing that file to disk and you're interested in the metadata about the file. The metadata
Yeah.
being the file path at which it exists, the name of the file, the MIME type of the file, and the size and various other things.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Gotcha. Yeah.
cool. Okay, so I think we're going to step away from the blog post stuff and now maybe talk about some more conceptual things.
Okay.
Um, and I think we can probably even step away from the code, so we don't need to be doing the screen share thing. That was useful to visualize some of the stuff I was talking about. But at this point, we would transition to more of the architectural decisions or
Okay.
conversations. Okay,
Yeah.
any questions I should address before we do that?
Uh, let's see here. There was just asking about the Zoom. Josh saying, I'm watching and listening and processing with every fiber of my body. Okay, thanks. Yeah, no, there's no questions about what we were just discussing. So yeah, feel free to go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. So so now we are successfully sending files on the front end. We're successfully receiving files on the back end. But there's just one problem, and that is once you get into more of a distributed architecture.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you want to spin up, I don't know, 5 different machines that are uh, running your application,
Yeah,
and one file gets uploaded. How do you know where that file exists? Right,
yeah,
like which of the machines is going to store it, right? So now you have a sort of decentralized um, applications infrastructure, uh, and also decentralized storage, which is maybe not great for every use case. Decentralized is probably the wrong term. Distributed.
yeah, yeah. Gotcha.
um, and then you also have an issue where, let's say we have an application that's very happily chugging along with 2 gigabytes of memory. It's like doing just fine, can process everything, right? But people are
Mm-hmm.
uploading a lot of files, and before you know it, you're hitting the limits of the server's disk space, even if it's on just one machine, right?
Yeah,
So what you're going to do is you're going to upgrade your server, and I think the Akamai cloud computing services start at like $7 a month, and then go to 12. So if you want to up your service, I think you would get something like 20 gigabytes of disk
okay,
or 25 gigabytes of disk on the cheapest plan. And then if you go to a more expensive plan, it's going to cost you, I think, $7 more or $5 more, something like that. And it's going to
okay,
double that storage space, right? It doesn't matter that what the actual pricing is, but you're going to upgrade your server, and it's going to cost you more money for, let's say, double the storage space.
okay.
That's fine. There's a lot of very valid reasons to upgrade your server, including we need more RAM because we're getting more users, or we need more CPU to improve the performance. Upgrading a server purely for more storage is a very cost ineffective reason to upgrade your server,
Mm-hmm.
because these days we have services like object storage,
Yeah,
which generally very common or follow like an S3 protocol, which is something that Amazon invented for
yeah.
simple static server, I think, something like that. Um, but it's very cost effective. So let's say it was that $5 difference to go from 25 to 50 gigabytes of storage disk
Yeah.
space. If you took that same $5 and put it into object storage, and I can only speak for off the top of my head for Akamai's cloud computing services, that
Yeah.
$5 is going to buy you 250 gigabytes. So 10x what you would otherwise get.
Yeah.
So what do you want? 25 gigs or 250? Easy
Mhm.
solution for me. Again, only if we're talking about disk space. So we say, okay, in addition to being more cost effective, we also have a single location. So if we have a distributed system, these can all write to this one system and sort of keep in sync. And object storage is a little bit more fine tuned for reliability, deliverability of objects, and objects being things like blobs or files or just, I mean, essentially files. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's file storage. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So then the question becomes, great, sign me up. I'm in. Only problem is, how do I actually get my files from my server to this object storage? Because now we're introducing another computer, a third computer, right? My client, or my computer, the client that has the file,
Yeah.
is one. Your server is the other. Object storage is the third. How do we go from the file on my computer to object storage? Well, there's a number of different ways. Probably the most popular that I found in my research was to do what's called signed URLs. So a
Okay.
signed URL is essentially, I make a request to you, your server, to upload my file, but
Yeah.
I'm not actually sending the file in this first request. What
Okay.
I would send is just a request to say, hey, can I get a URL to upload a file to? And you'd say, yeah, sure. Your server would talk to the object storage provider
Okay.
and say, hey, I would like a signed URL, please. Object storage provider is going to respond with the URL and like a little authentication token and probably like an expiration. And then you respond with that URL. With that URL,
Yeah.
I can upload files directly from my computer to the cloud provider, the object storage
Okay.
system. Okay.
Yeah.
I personally,
So,
I personally don't like this system because you cannot do this in a progressive enhanced way. At least not one that I've discovered. But it does have its merits, which I'll talk about after I explain the second version. The second version, I was not able to find anything about, which is why I wanted to write about it.
okay.
Um, and this is essentially the same way that we had the upload go to your server and stream the upload and then stream that or like pipe that stream to write to disk.
Yeah.
Instead of piping the stream to disk, what you can do is create another HTTP request. So HTTP
Okay.
request goes from my computer with the file to your computer, and you
Mhm.
basically just redirect that HTTP request or the contents of it to another HTTP request, which is going to upload the file to your
Okay.
object storage provider. So you,
Okay.
as the
Gotcha.
data comes in, you basically append that data to the next request, and it just kind of passes through.
Okay.
Okay.
And that allows it to
If you
stay progressive, like on the.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
it?
you basically you can keep because you've built the connection between the client and the server in a progressive enhanced way. It
Yeah.
was what happens on your server end. Things could
Yeah.
break or whatever, but you don't have to worry about that so much because communication between your server and object storage provider is not
Yeah.
something that the client needs to even be aware of.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I actually, if you want to see what that code looks like, again, it's in the blog post. I would probably do that because it does a better job of introducing code in the right
Okay.
place in a coherent format. But if you want
Yeah.
to see
Sure.
the code, I can share my screen and we can like
Yeah.
talk through it really quick.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah. I'll just pop this back over to screen share.
yeah, sorry for jumping around, but
Oh
once
no, it's all
again,
good. All good.
we have this function that is going to take the incoming request object from Node, and it's going to return a promise. But this time, what we're going to do is we're going to create. Well, ignore this part for now. We're going to instantiate Formidable, which is the library that I'm talking about, and we're going to
Yeah.
tell it a few things. The key thing here, we can ignore We can ignore the filter. Don't worry about that. We can, ignore these. You can even ignore multiples. The important thing here is it allows you a configuration option called file write stream handler. And this is
Okay.
essentially what it's going to do with the stream as it's coming in. Now, if you omit this, it's going to write it to the
Yeah.
file system. It's going to use the Node.js
Oh, okay. Okay.
underlying file system create whatever, create file write stream or something.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
we're going to do instead is replace it with a different function. And what that function looks like is this. You essentially create what's called a pass-through stream, which a pass-through stream is a stream object that takes data as it's coming in. It receives a stream, and then it writes it like passes the data through. The reason this is important is because there's different types of streams. There's read streams, which can basically read data as it's coming in. There's write
Hmm.
streams, which are going to generate data and push it out as a stream. And this needs to serve as both. It needs to read from an incoming message and write to an outgoing message or an outgoing HTTP request.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna take that pass through stream, and essentially what this function needs to return is a writable stream. Yes, it needs to. This function needs to return a stream object that Formidable is going to write to. So when
Okay.
Formidable receives data, it's going to write to whatever this function returns, which happens to be on one end a writable stream because a pass-through stream is technically writable and readable. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
Next, what we're going to do is we're going to construct uh, an S3 upload request. The way we do that is with Amazon has these libraries. Now, I'm writing mine to Akamai's object storage service, which
Yeah.
was previously Linode. And you can configure it with your credentials and endpoint and region. Again, this is nice. This format is nice because it's not specific. As long as you have an S3 compatible object storage provider, this
Yeah.
will work. But
Okay.
we use AWS's services because they're maintained, and that way I don't have to construct a custom HTTP request.
Yeah.
Um, so that allows us to write it in such a way that we create the sort of request object first. We tell it which bucket we want to store the file in. I'm giving it like a subfolder to put in. We tell it the
Okay.
content type. That's important so that browsers treat it appropriately. We configure it with some sort of access control layer. Here I'm saying it's public read, meaning anyone that has access to the URL can see that file or can access the file. And then
Yeah.
what I'm going to do, here's the key thing, is I'm going to use this pass-through stream as the body of the request. Now, this is important
Oh, okay.
because the upload has to be a readable stream because the object storage provider on the other end needs to be able to read the data as it's coming in, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So then we actually instantiate the request. That's like upload.done method is the method that actually initiates the HTTP request. We
Hmm.
wait for it to complete. I modify some information so that I have the location of the file as it completes. And then there's one other tricky thing is always consider that an HTTP request may contain multiple files.
Okay.
So I want to keep track of for each of those files that I'm uploading. I also have to keep track of the not just the file coming in, but I have to keep
Hmm.
track of the HTTP file for me passing that file through to the S3 object storage location,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
right? So
Yeah.
the client needs to know when its upload is done, but the server, our little sort of proxy server, needs to be aware of when the S3 upload is complete
Okay.
because we have to wait until the S3 upload is complete before we can actually respond to the client and say, okay, the request is complete.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, probably better. I'm going to skip this last part. The
Okay.
blog post explains it more, but this is really the bulk of the logic here. Is we have to use a pass through stream to
Yeah.
receive the data and pass it through to the uploader. Okay.
Yeah.
We can go off screen share now if you want.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was
Um,
just gonna.
this was yeah.
No, I
This
was
was
just gonna say it's
interesting.
great.
Oh, yeah.
It's always
This was
the
interesting
slight delay.
because it's oh man, we're on a delay.
Sorry. Go ahead. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
talk. You go ahead. You go ahead.
All right. All right. This was an interesting challenge because once again, most people don't do this approach, and there's a very good reason. When you're dealing with again the previous approach of using signed URLs,
Hmm.
your server never touches the upload. And if that
Yeah.
file is a 10 gigabyte file upload, that may not matter in terms of, again, storing files onto that disk, or like, we're no longer worrying about the file taking down the server because of memory issues. And we're no longer worrying about the, the server running out of disk space.
Yeah.
But when you upload a 10 gigabyte file, a lot of service providers for compute services do
Mhm.
keep track of data transfer
Okay.
in and out of your server. When you use a signed URL, all you're doing is asking for the URL. So that's just like a very short string of data, very tiny on transfer.
Yeah.
When you upload with a stream and you upload 10 gigabytes of data, you're actually paying that cost twice, because now you're paying for the ingress of the file coming into your server, and then you're
Yeah.
paying for the egress of that file being passed through your server to the object storage provider.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
And not every service provider charges in the same way. Not all of them charge for ingress and egress, but it's very important when you get to this level, right? Architectural thinking. Now we're talking about business value. It's
Yeah.
very important to consider how much this is going to charge your business, and how your architectural decisions play in.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Now, so this one could technically probably will cost you more. At the same time, I still prefer the system because I care about progressive enhancement, which is good for the client. I also care about the fact that if I'm just using a signed URL, I never even know what it is that the user uploaded. Right? The user gets a
Yeah.
signed URL. The user can upload a file directly. If I need to do
Yeah.
any sort of processing on that file, let's say optimize the file, I can't really do that unless
Okay.
I
Yeah.
then go and download the file from S3 and then do image manipulation. But then once again, you're basically doing the same thing. So
Yeah.
I really like being in control of the file as it goes through, having it come through my server, do what I need to do, and then upload it to object storage.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah. No,
Okay.
this is. Yeah. No, this is super cool. We're. I know we're over time a bit, but this is super cool that you've gone through the whole gamut of things. Cause like whenever I've seen tutorials, typically it's just like here's like it'll be just the front end part, or maybe even the back end part, or sometimes it's just the back end part, and it's kind of nice. Like even if people don't go with this full solution, I just like that you literally provide an entire solution. Like it's not just like the one chunk that only gets you part of the way. So I appreciate you going through all that.
Yeah, I mean, if you still have time, we're not quite there, and I could wrap it up
Okay.
quickly.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can
if you
go
if you still got
for
time.
50. I can go for 15 more minutes, like through 3 p.m.
Okay.
my time. So let's
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So now we are uploading files. We're storing them in a cost effective place. But there's still a problem, and that is whether you deploy your application to a server and you're writing files to your local disk, or
Hmm.
whether you're using an object storage location. Um, all of those all the services, it gets stored in a computer somewhere in one place, right?
Yeah.
You tell your service provider where you want to deploy your application server, or where you want to deploy your object storage location server, right? You probably want it as close to the users as possible, but as your application scales up, um, you're going to get more and more users, and probably from more parts around the world. And the problem now is delivery, and that
Okay.
is when a user comes to your application from, let's say, Tokyo, and a different
Hmm.
user comes to your application from Toronto, and I live in Portland, so maybe I originally put my server somewhere on the West Coast. uh,
Yeah.
those all of these users are going to download those files at different speeds, and well, maybe the same speed, but there's going to be a delay due to latency, and that is the amount of time that it takes for the HTTP request to make the round trip across the wire, in the air, whatever, to the actual computer that has it, and then bring that file back. And
Yeah.
latency is a pain in the butt because it's not time that is spent doing anything useful, right? It's not like
Yeah.
the computer is doing the bleeps and bloops to calculate stuff. It's literally just dead time, dead space waiting, twiddling its thumb, right? So
Yeah.
the solution there for static files is a CDN, content delivery network, um,
Yeah.
and that is essentially a globally distributed network of computers that uh, are essentially communicating to each other.
Yeah.
Um, and so the way a CDN might work is user in Tokyo makes a request to my server. It's got to travel to my server, comes back with HTML. HTML contains, let's say, a picture of my dog Nugget. So the browser then has to make another request to go and get the picture of my dog Nugget. Now, if that
Yeah.
has to go to the server, it can be a really long trip. Like once again, to get the picture, or if it's an object storage location, might be a long trip to go to US West One or whatever, and
Yeah.
then come back to Tokyo. With a CDN, instead of that request going directly to the server, it's going to pass through at the sort of DNS level. It's going to pass
Mhm.
through a request that goes through the CDN provider. And that CDN provider might have, uh, for Akamai, we have like 300,000 servers across 4,000 different locations around the world. It's the most expansive CDN in the world. Again, not trying to like plug it, but just give some idea that it's like, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
massive. Okay. So it's almost guaranteed that, I mean, definitely guaranteed. I don't know how much I can say. Let's just assume that there's probably a server in Tokyo, right? So when
Yeah.
the user in Tokyo makes a request, it's going to go through the server location or through the node, the Akamai node in Tokyo, and then it will probably go all the way to the origin server, grab the photo, and bring it back. Right? That's for the first request. For
Yeah.
every other user in Tokyo or in that region, that's going to grab that same image, they're all going to go through the CDN node. But then the CDN node is going to say, you know what? I actually already have a copy of this because when it brought that
Mhm.
back from the original server, it said, let me store this just in case someone else needs it. And then someone else needs it. All those people are going to see drastically reduced times. When I say drastic, we're talking about, let's say, I mean, worst case scenario is a network request has to travel around the world, might be like 300 milliseconds.
Yeah.
I don't know, conservatively maybe. That's fine. You're shaving 300 milliseconds. That's not a huge amount of time in the grand scheme of life.
Yeah.
But depending on the type of asset it could be, it can. There are things called render blocking resources. So when the browser
Mhm.
loads CSS, JavaScript, it needs the way that it has to construct the page and actually build out the view of the page. It needs to grab all of those resources. And if it needs to wait 300 milliseconds before it can move on and continue parsing, and then there's another request that has to wait for, and then come back, and another request has to wait for, and then come back, those can stack and add up to be a significant
Mhm.
amount of time. And when we're talking about customers at the scale that Akamai deals with, even just one of those requests being like 300 milliseconds is a significant amount of time. I think
Oh
there's an
yeah, for
old
sure.
study that Amazon did that's like from 2008, so it's way outdated. But they were like, for every 100 milliseconds of delay they saw in page load time, it was like 1% of sales, and for them,
Okay.
1% of sales is like $1 billion or something, like some
Substantial.
ungodly amount. Yeah, it's like it's some huge amount of you could hire like 100,000 developers, and if they shave off that time, you still come out green. So
Yeah.
it's significant, and really a CDN is kind of nice because once you provision it and configure it and have it set up, it's kind of like set it and forget it. It's going to handle all of the HTTP traffic that goes through it. It's going to know how to do the caching, and you can configure it based on HTTP headers to bust the cache or clear the cache or like flush it after a certain amount of time or don't cache certain requests. Um, but that's super helpful. And some of the other cool things, this kind of like naturally leads into the final point.
Hmm.
There's some other cool things that CDNs can offer because so much traffic is passing through them, and because they have access to see or experience the network on a larger scale than just your service or just your application. They can see all
Yeah.
of the traffic that's happening around the world through across every application. They can start to diagnose different behaviors that they're seeing, such as tracking suspicious traffic and blocking it and protecting it from even getting to your origin server, which is great for security, not just for securing your application, but if you're blocking bad traffic, that keeps bad actors from even getting to your service, but it also saves your service from unnecessary compute, right? So you
Yeah.
could your server might be like you might be able to run your application on a cheaper server, or if you get a spike in traffic, it might be able to handle that better,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just because
Not
it's
having
using
to go
less
to the
resources.
origin. Yeah. Not having to go to
Right,
the origin all the time.
right. And so coming back to the whole like file upload thing, security, how it applies to file upload is really interesting. OWASP puts out a couple of OWASP is a security organization, and they put out some like to do lists or checklists on specific security concerns. They put out one for file uploads, and again, just if you want to read through the blog post that I wrote, it gets into this as well. The last thing is about what you need to consider when you enable um, or what you need to consider in terms of security when you enable file uploads in your application.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's a lot of things that I walk through. I don't know if we have time to go through everything specifically, but fortunately, Formidable allows for a lot. Like Formidable enables a lot of it by default. Some of
Okay.
it is renaming files or like hashing file names so that you don't have not allowed characters in file names when people upload
Oh
them.
yeah. Yeah.
Some
That's
of
a
it is around
classic.
checking. Yeah, some of it is around checking MIME types and preventing certain types of files being uploaded to the system. Like if you only want to allow PDFs,
Yeah.
how could you do that? Uh, if some of it is around file size, or
Yeah.
some of it we don't get into. That's around only allowing users with authentication or like authenticated users or authorized users to upload specific files. So that's one way that we don't actually get into because that requires authentication systems and databases and stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the coolest things that we get into, just so we can kind of wrap this up, one of the coolest things we get into, and one of the challenges is uh, viruses, right? Like that's kind of the big one. The big obvious
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
is you have someone that wants to upload a bad actor that wants to upload a virus. So there's ways to do this on your own, like a DIY solution.
Hmm.
And again, you can't really do that with uh, signed URLs with the object storage stuff because you send a signed URL, they can upload whatever they want. You
Okay.
would then have to go and like retroactively check all the files that are in your object storage. Um, and you can't really do that by streaming files through to the object storage provider because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you need the entire contents of the file. You need to examine the entire contents of the file to know whether it's malware or not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this introduces a really interesting challenge in that, from an architectural perspective, the solution is essentially take these files, and as much as you would want to prevent malware, you kind of can't. So what you can
Yeah.
do instead is take the file, allow it to be written to some sort of temporary um, quarantine place. Now that could be an object
Okay.
storage place, or that could be on disk. And you allow files to be temporarily written until you have the entire contents of the file and have time to do a scan. Now, this whole
Okay.
song and dance is going to take way longer than what is allowable in a response interaction, right? So you can't do this while the user is uploading something and wait for all of this to happen and then respond.
Yeah.
You essentially have to take the file, wait until the upload is complete, and then respond with, "Okay, we're all good."
Yeah.
But in the background have some sort of database set up that keeps track of files, keeps track of their metadata, and keeps track of whether they have been scanned or not. And then either
Okay.
have like a scheduled scan or a cron job or some sort of event based system that is going to kick off after a file has completed or at some sort of timed interval, and
Mm-hmm.
checks the database for all of the files that have not yet been scanned, and
Okay.
then goes, finds the file location, scans it, tracks if it's good or not, and if it finds any sort of virus, updates the database and does whatever sort of you need to do.
Okay.
Maybe it will email your like internal team administration. Maybe it emails the person that uploaded. Sometimes it could be a false flag, or it could be you could say send a warning, or you could just say
Mm-hmm.
no. If we find malware, delete the file, delete the entry from the database, just get rid of it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
What you do is
No,
up to
that
you,
makes sense. Yeah.
right?
No, it's a
So
good point.
yeah, again, the blog post goes into a little more detail, so I hope that people are checking it out. And if it's all right, I would like to end with one more plug for something that I thought that was really cool. Is a service that Akamai offers, which is all of that does require these files to actually enter into your file system, which
Yeah.
at that point, you're opening yourself up to some level of vulnerability because you have a bad file and it has to get into your system.
Yeah.
But there's a service that Akamai provides that I think is limited on the actual file size, but
Okay.
for a lot of applications would be totally valid. And that's basically they do that same thing for you, except they do it on at the edge node. So when someone uploads a file, you can
Yeah.
enable malware protection. And if you have
Okay.
it enabled on your contract, when someone uploads a file, it actually gets written to the file system at that edge node and then scanned. And then if it's clean, it can pass through to your origin server. So you
Okay.
can configure it in a way that it either sends a warning if it finds virus, or it just like blocks the request completely. And it's really nice because you don't have to change anything on your origin server's logic, right? Like
Yeah.
nothing as far as you're concerned needs to change. It all happens on at the edge node, which is
Yeah.
convenient and easy and really nice. So I know we're kind of out of time, but yeah, check out
No,
the
no,
blog post, check
it's
out
all
that
good.
service. I turned it on, and like here's the really cool thing: is I had this rudimentary app, and it basically I
Yeah.
didn't return any sort of different status codes. Everything was either a 200 or a 500 if my server broke. When I
Okay.
turned this service on, just turning it on and like have passing traffic through, I was able
Yeah.
to upload some malware because there is a test malware file for malware testers. I
Okay.
was able to upload this, and the server responded immediately because not only once again it's a CDN, so it's like whatever,
Yeah.
just down the street from me. So almost immediately it responded with a 403
Okay.
status code,
Forbidden.
which is yeah, like forbidden, like you did something wrong. Logic
Yeah.
that's built in, logic that happens that I didn't have to write.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. Uh,
No,
yeah, I'd encourage
that
that. I think I'll post a link to something. It's in the
that
blog post.
that is cool. And to be clear, I honestly feel like I could talk to you the entire rest of the day. It's not that I want to end the stream. It's I have some things I have to tend to so at work.
No, fair enough.
But
No, this was good. We can plan something else another time. But
oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. But this has been like, just to recap, because I think it was just really great that you went through the whole flow, from front end to back end to large file storage, and then digging into what a CDN is, and then like, we didn't do super deep dive, but like obviously there's security concerns like you mentioned. I dropped a link to the formidable package that you mentioned in the chat. I'll pop these links when I put this up on YouTube too. But I also dropped the classic OWASP top 10, but as well the file
it's great.
upload cheat sheet you mentioned.
Yeah.
Just a bit of googling, and yeah, I'm gonna drop links for you again for folks to give you a follow, and also just check out the blog. Yeah, no, thanks, Jesse, for checking out the stream. You too. I always forget Brent, B1 Mind, Brent Morton.
You won.
Um, yeah, yeah, B1.
Nice.
But yeah,
Those good people.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I just dropped again the series for your file uploading, so I definitely encourage people to check that out. I'll be dropping all these links in the YouTube upload and the Twitch stream and the highlight once I pop that up. Um, just want to say this has been super awesome, Austin. Like, just super fun stream, and like I said, I feel like I don't know you really yet, but I feel like I could hang out with you all day.
Let's hang
But
out. Come to
yeah,
Portland.
yeah. No, I've got some coworkers in Portland, so I got to get my butt down there. Um, but yeah, thanks again for taking the time. This is super awesome, and um, I'm just gonna drop the schedule for folks to check it out. Give a follow on Twitch if you aren't already. Give Austin a follow on Twitch as well. You're just Austin Gill on Twitch as well, right?
I
Or
think it's Hey Austin Gill.
Hey Austin Gill, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely give Austin a follow. And yeah, aside from that, see you at the next stream, folks. Austin, if you just don't mind staying on for just 1 second, and great stream, everybody. See you next week.
Yeah.